Now, so we're recording. Welcome. We're on the way. Welcome to you all to the webinar about business plans that work. This is what it's going to look like today. First of all, I'm going to give you a whole heap of stuff, as much as I can cram into your brains in the time we have available. And look, planning is a favourite topic of mine, so I can go on about it for hours and hours. So do feel free to stop me when it gets boring. And like I said, probably won't take a blind bit of notice. Anyway, in a moment I'm going to tell you what you can expect and what we'll cover, but just so you know, I will not sell you anything today. I'm just going to give you lots and lots and lots of stuff, food for thought, useful stuff, hopefully. And then at the end, I'm going to give you, or before the end, I'm going to give you some information on how you can take a few simple next steps forward with all that food for thought, and with me if that's useful for you. So this is our topic. It's actually not war. I don't know why that slide actually says work, but for some reason on this screen it always comes up as war, and I tried to fix it before, it still doesn't. So sorry about that. Now, but I wonder what happens when I do that. No, that makes no difference. So anyway, just believe me, the slide actually says business plans that work. All right. And before we go on, just a general comment. It's been proven time and time again that passively sitting and listening to someone talking, it simply means you're going to forget 90% of what you heard in less than a week. So if you want to get return on investment on your investment of time, then you need to participate, and participating is best done by asking questions and or both working your way through worksheets that you can get from the link at the top of the page there, tiny.cc plan L page. But above all, ask questions. It really makes a difference to what you're going to get from this. And then you can, if you're really clever, you can embarrass me by asking questions I don't know the answer to or something like that. That's always fun. So don't do any of this. You're going to get distracted by Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, email, text messages. Just turn it off. Don't think you are going to be able to be focused on Facebook and get value from this workshop. You simply won't. Multitasking is a myth for all of us, women or men, believe me. And this is what we're going to talk about. I'm going to check in where you are on this topic of planning in your business. And we'll talk about the 3 reasons why planning is so important, the 2 reasons why it seems so hard, the 6 criteria for a business plan that actually works, one of my famous business bedtime stories, like I said before, some information about how you can take a next step on your journey to develop a great business. Free, no obligation, if it's of interest, and then we're going to talk about taking action, because it's all about what we do in this life, right? So I trust that sounds okay. And like I said, ask. That's me. For those of you who haven't met me before, I'm Roland. I'm a business coach and a mentor and a business educator, and I help small business owners feel great about about themselves and about their business by making business fun again. And I have written some books about that kind of stuff as well. And that concept of making business fun is the book on the right there, the pink one, The 10 Truths for Making Business Fun. The 3 books are called the 10 Truths Trilogy, business books for people who don't read business books but should. And one of the reasons there's business books are for people who don't read business books because they're actually a lot thinner than they look on that on those images. You could read each one of them in around 2 hours or maybe less. But so today's Masterminds webinar is all about the second truth of both the green and the blue book, and it's about planning. I've just got a note from Kathy, who's saying that the sound quality is stopping and starting. Do other people have the same problem? Is the sound bad, interrupted, rubbish? Somebody can, Adam, sound is fine. Sound is fine. So, Kathy, it might be your issue at this point. Let's see how we go. One thing you could do, Kathy, is you could, for the sound quality, you could actually call in on the landline. I can't give you the instructions right now, but you could actually call in on the phone line if you wanted to. So we're going on. So planning there's a truth about planning in both my first and my second book, the green one and the blue one. And as I was saying, the truth 6 of the second book, the green one, the blue one, it's a fun business has a living business plan that drives the business forward. And the truth about planning in this first book is a business plan without a plan achieves everything in it. And so what I want to achieve today is this. I want you to all walk away enthusiastic about at least one action that you're committed to taking in your business around effective planning in your business. And second, I want you all to know that you can take simple, easy steps to get ahead with any of the challenges in your business to start to build a business that is fun and that sustains you for years to come. Because, as business owners, building our own businesses, we're often in a state of overwhelm because there's simply so many things to focus on, and it's all a bit much from time to time, and it's all down to you, and we often simply just don't know where to start. And that's what the Small Business Mastermind Foundation webinars are all about, finding the small, simple steps through the maze and the mess, the small steps that are going to make a difference in all the key aspects of your business. Because these are the key aspects of all of our businesses. These are the key aspects that we all get confronted with when developing and growing our business. A rhythm of business, or the predictability, marketing, vision, planning, people, customers, control systems, or finger on the pulse, or whatever you want to call that. Numbers is another way to put it. Measurement, money, systems or quality improvement, and leadership. And all of those things have to be attended to have fun. And the problem is this: it's just too much to focus on, isn't it? It's overwhelming and it's daunting, and it's just doing your head in. So before we go on, please go to your worksheet, and on the third page, is it the third page? Sorry, it's the second page. The second page. You see a question with some space underneath it, and the question is, right now, this coming month, what is the biggest challenge that you face in your business? What's the one thing that keeps you awake most? So take a moment to think about that question and write it down on your worksheet, and I'm going to give you a minute silence to write it down. Should really have some silence music, some on hold music here, shouldn't I? Music. Biggest challenge. Right. We'll go back to that later. So, next. That was that. We're going to run a little poll, and I'm just going to dump now. Survey, see what people's feelings are about planning. Get it up. This one. Right. And the questions are repeated on your worksheet as well. But the question is that I'd like you to score yourself on is, when you think about business planning, what you feel is, A, nothing much, because I don't think having a plan will make any difference to my life at all. B, I sort of feel daunted, guilty, or ashamed because I know I ought to have a business plan, but I haven't gotten around to it and don't know where to start. Or C, I'm frustrated because I have a business plan. I spent a lot of money and time creating it, and I haven't looked at it for ages and ages. Or D, I'm fired up because I have a plan. We look at it all the time and incorporate it in our regular strategic planning sessions. It's a live document that's constantly being updated. Could I ask all of you to vote A, B, C, or D. Nothing much. I feel, or, you know, it's irrelevant, or I feel daunted, or overwhelmed about it, or feel frustrated, or I'm fired up and excited. And we've got most people who voted with just a couple more. Vote now. Great. I think that's all of us. Is that right? I think so, maybe. Yes. It seems that way. Okay. Great. Notice that. And it's interesting. All the votes came in between B and C. So it's not unusual, right? That's really what I probably expect most of the time. And yes, I mean, actually, there's twice as many in B than in C. So it's like 66% B and 33% C. And that's more or less what I expect, right? We all know we ought to have a plan, and we don't, or we have one, but it's gathering dust at the bottom of a cabinet somewhere. And the problem with that is this: a business without a plan achieves everything in it. In other words, you do need a plan. A plan is crucial to the success of any business. Without a plan, your business will go nowhere fast. And I know I'm not telling you anything you don't already know, because everybody's always told you so, right? But here's the thing. There's business plans and there's business plans. There's business plans that work and business plans that don't. All business plans are not created equal, in other words. Lots of business plans actually have no impact on business at all. And so what I want to do today is to give you some basic insights and some understanding and tools about planning. Adam just said, Adam from Yamba said 70% of people have a plan, don't implement it. That's right, because 70% of people that have a plan write a plan that doesn't actually make a difference. It doesn't work. Yes, thank you, Adam. So I want to give you some tools and some planning and some insight about plans that work. Plans that actually make a big difference in helping you create and build a business that works for you. And I'm going to leave you with some really simple actions to take around planning straight away after. So let's get into this. The 3 principles of planning. So you've heard it said many times. Lots of people have told you. Your Aunt Sally's probably told you you have to have a business plan. But why is that? What makes planning so important? There's a lot of uncertainty about the value of planning. And there's a famous quote that's attributed to a number of different generals throughout the ages, including General von Clausewitz, as well as Napoleon Bonaparte. And the quote goes like this: "No battle plan ever survives the first contact with the enemy." He doesn't look like much like a general, does he? He looks like a pussy. But apparently, von Clausewitz is one of the most fearsome generals that ever was in the early days of the 19th century, I think. Anyway, but so if battle plans have to be thrown out the window as soon as the battle starts, you could ask, why should we make plans at all if they're going to have to be thrown out anyway? And business plans are no different than battle plans in my experience, right? As soon as the real world comes around, they're out of date. That's how it goes in real life. And it was like that when I was a builder. I was a builder for 20 years. I used to have to create project plans for the construction works, and every time I'd create this beautiful big plan, or I'd update a plan, I'd send it to the client or the architect or whatever, and it'd be out of date before it got to them, before I pushed print just about, right? It was very frustrating sometimes. I could spend hours and hours on these big project plans in Microsoft Project, which I hope I'll never have to open again in my life. Anyway, it was very frustrating. Now, for some people are going to draw the conclusion, therefore, that there is no point developing plans and committing to them, because they are going to have to change and change again, sometimes every month, as the plan is rolled out. And on the face of it, that seems like a reasonable conclusion to draw, but it isn't. It's exactly the wrong conclusion to draw. It's precisely because the world is going to change the moment the plan is created and committed to paper that your planning must be thorough and especially ongoing. Planning never stops. As soon as you send the plan to the printer, it's time to start thinking about the next plan. A great general, like von Clausewitz, can make swift and accurate strategic decisions because of his planning. That's what made von K, or C, I'm not sure if it's a C or a K, anyway, so effective. That's what made Napoleon so effective and all the great generals since. Planning gives a general the understanding and the knowledge to allow him to respond quickly, accurately, and strategically to the changing battlefront. And so it is with business planning. And hence, I say planning is a verb. What we need to understand that planning is actually never about the document that is created. It's all about the work that goes in creating the plan. Planning is a verb, it's not a noun, it must continuously be ongoing. So, the three principles upon which any business plan must rest, if they're going to make a difference, is that it must spell out exactly where the business is headed and how it plans to get there. It needs to have a fixed set of criteria to test every decision in the business against. And it needs to know your options and be able to make swift and accurate decisions when your business circumstances change from the one you planned for. Von Clausewitz is with a C, someone said. I was looking at this C, and somebody put C in the chat window, and I thought, what was that about? It must be von Clausewitz. Yeah, with a C, okay. So that third principle, to know your options and to be able to make swift, accurate decisions when your business circumstances change from the ones you planned for. So the first principle addresses our goals and our best guess at how we're going to get to achieve those goals, knowing what we know today and looking at the future from our current vantage point. Obviously, if tomorrow or next month we know new stuff that we didn't know last month, then we may need to adjust our goals or our strategies for achieving the goals. If your goal is to hit $1 million revenue selling your particular widget at X dollars, and next week a well-funded competitor arrives on the market with a widget that is as good as yours but 30% cheaper, then you're going to have to adjust, right? You may have to adjust your goals or your marketing strategy or your profit expectations or your manufacturing process or whatever. Whether you like it or not, your plan will have to change. That's exactly the reason I said that planning is not about the document, but about the work of planning. You see, too many times I've seen businesses continue to push a fully laden wheelbarrow uphill with a flat tire because that's what the plan calls for. Keep pushing, guys. Harder, harder, harder. Even if it's clear, you'll never get there. Probably a much better idea to make a detour via a service station, right? And to pump up the tire with a nicely inflated tire, you're going to be able to make up for some lost time. And although you may arrive on the top of the hill a little later than you planned, you'll get there and without a busted wheel or a busted back. How'd you like to be that guy and push that stuff around all day? So there you go. So the second principle I said about having a set of criteria to test your decisions and actions against is just as important as the first one. We're constantly making decisions about what to do and what not to do, about which clients to say yes to and which clients to refer on to someone else, about what work to do and what not to do, and about how to carry out our work and services. Without a set of principles verbalized and committed to, you and your people will be sailing blind. Like that boy. That was pretty awesome, that, by the way. Sailing blind like that. Wow. The principles help you make the right decisions and take the right actions and keep you on track to your goals. Every general has a set of engagement principles as well. If they didn't, the world would be in an even greater mess than it is already. The last of the three core principles that make it clear why business planning is crucial is really the one I've been talking about a lot already. When you go and execute a plan, the world immediately changes and you need to know how to adjust your strategies and goals in response to those changing realities. Having spent the time developing your plan in the first place means you'll be able to respond appropriately, accurately, and swiftly. And so that's what a business plan needs to look like. Hang on. A sip of water. So if your business plan is designed with those 3 principles in mind, you can be sure it won't be kept in the bottom of a drawer. It's going to sit on your desk. It's going to be dog-eared and smudged. It's going to have coffee stains and scribbles and doodles all over it. You look at it every day and so will everyone else, everyone who has anything to do with it. Yeah, so we just had a question from Randall. Randall. And I said, accept planning is important, but what makes it so hard? And funny you should mention that, Randall. Thanks for the question. Because I was coming to that, actually. Because you see, the thing is, it's actually not that hard at all. But it looks as if it would be. And that's because 2 big misunderstandings about planning. Before we go there, are there any other questions at this moment? For anybody online at this moment? Any questions? Draw breath. Okay, moving right along. So, planning isn't actually that hard. It's just harder than you. It just looks really hard, and that's because of those 2 big misunderstandings. I've talked about the first misunderstanding already, namely that planning is about the business plan, not about the work you do to create a plan. So what happens is that people believe they have to create this perfect plan that addresses all the opportunities and all the strategies and all the eventualities, and it has to have all the I's dotted and all the T's crossed. And that's the only way a proper business plan is created. And they see their business plan sitting in the bottom drawer, hopelessly out of date and never looked at. So they say to themselves, obviously, that's not how you create a business plan that works. I mean, it looks beautiful. It's got all the I's crossed and or the I's dotted and the T's crossed, and it's got an executive summary and indices, and it's bound, and it looks amazing. But we haven't done anything with it. So that's clearly not how you're supposed to do it, because nothing's working about it now. And so then they don't do any more planning because they don't understand how to create the perfect plan. They don't understand that the perfect plan is any plan. Any plan you start on and you work on to make better all the time. It truly doesn't matter how you start and what the outcome of it is. The only thing that matters is that you start and that you do it. I'll get to your question in a minute, Kathy. The other misunderstanding about business plan is that people expect a business plan to look like the one their accountant gave them a template for, or the one they got from the bank, downloaded as a template from some government website. So, Kathy, I'll come to your question now. So, Kathy just asked, we have a plan, but how do you get agreement with others? Now, I assume others are the people in the business, as in the employees or the shareholders or other stakeholders. Well, how do you get agreement? Well, I think if you write a business plan in an ivory tower and you don't involve anybody, then you're going to always have a hard task to engage people with that. I don't know if that's your circumstances, of course. I think the big secret always is to engage people with the creation of the plan. That doesn't necessarily mean that everybody and all the stakeholders have to be engaged with the plan, with every bit of the plan. But there are certain key parts of the plan that at least people need to feel that they've had some level of input on, I think, for them to be comfortable with being engaged with it. I mean, if you're working in a company where you're operating along a pretty traditional command and control structure, I suppose you can simply say that this is what we're doing and the story, but it's never quite as effective as really getting people fully engaged with it. So, I mean, my answer would be really think about which parts of the plan you're prepared and interested to engage people in creating. But it's a process, absolutely. We can certainly talk about that further if you want. But I hope that answers your question at the moment. Feel free to ask some more questions about it down the track. There's plenty of opportunity. Anyway, so the first understanding is about this thing about doing it as opposed to having this perfect document. The fact that you're not using your plan, that it's been sitting in the bottom drawer and it's not being used, is not because the document isn't perfect. It means that you're probably not working it. You're not working with it. You're not using it as a live tool. So that's one thing. The other misunderstanding about business plans is that people expect a business plan to look like that thing that their accountant gave them a template of, or you've downloaded it from a website or government website or some government or some business support agency or dare I say another business coach. These business plan templates, and they're the bane of my life because one of those nicely bound documents, and they've got a content page and all that kind of stuff, and that's what most people picture as a business plan, right? This fancy-looking document, bound document. But that's not what you have to create. It's way too hard, and and like we said, it's out of date the moment you've created it. So then you got to start all over again. You just literally spent your whole life writing new plans. They're the kinds of things that end up gathering dust at the bottom of the filing cabinet, and that's the misunderstanding. There are two types of business plans, and that's this. There are internal business plans and there are external business plans. The nicely bound business plan with executive summaries and indices is an external plan. It's designed to impress the bank or some kind of external organization when applying for funding or for loans or something like that, or investment. An external plan is a document, set of documents, that is created as a once-off for a specific purpose, and the template you got from the government small business website is perfect for that, or from the accountant. But the kind of plan we're interested in is what I call an internal plan. And an internal plan is an entirely different beast. And it can look like whatever you want it to look like. It has one function only, and that is to get everyone on the same page, pulling in the same direction succinctly. And that's partly what the answer is, I think, to your question, Kathy, is that if you create a plan that is intended, it has as its outcome to engage everybody, then you would design the thing differently than if the plan is designed to impress the bank to give you money. So the design of the plan has a big impact on how effective it's going to be to engage the stakeholders with it. And we'll get to that. So it's one function, and it's to get everybody on the same page, pulling in the same direction. So if you think in terms of creating an internal rather than an external plan, and you take those three principles that I talked about in mind, that the plan is about getting where you want to go and how we think we're going to get there, that it's a tool we use to check our decisions against, and that its aim is to help you and your people understand your business better so that you'll make better decisions, then the project of starting a business plan suddenly isn't so daunting anymore. Does that answer your question, Randall? I hope so, because I spent enough time on it. Well, I'm just going to go through this anyway. So there are 6 criteria, I believe, that an internal business plan must meet for it to truly add to the success of the business. First, as we've talked about, it must be live, and it must be kept live by the people directly affected by it, stakeholders, if you will, monthly, quarterly, annually. It must be designed with the people who are directly affected by it in mind. No, that's that sentence. It must be designed with the people who are affected by it in mind, yes. And it must be easy to use, that's the third one. Easy to use and easily accessible for the people directly affected by it. It must be designed to address the short, medium, and long-term goals of the business. It must reflect the purpose and mission of the business, and it must be short. Ideally 1 page, maybe an A3 page, but certainly as short as humanly possible. Now, most of those criteria are self-explanatory. I think it's a bunch of them we've talked about already, but it's worth noting that the first 3 are all about those people who we want to get agreement with that Kathy mentioned. But what I want to talk about specifically to start with is that the plan must, that point number 5, that the plan must reflect the purpose and mission of the business. And what that means is that you have to have done the work on the purpose of your business first. You have to have absolute clarity about the mission and vision, if you will, purpose, what we're here for, our cause. There's lots of different ways to describe it, of the business, and you know where you want the business to go with the business over time, because that reflects our small, short, medium, and long-term goals. And that topic, I've got lots of other resources in the books and webinars about that as well, and there's recorded webinars as well as a live one. Probably the next one will be about that topic again. That's the purpose of business. So keep your eye out for that if you want to attend the next live webinar on that topic. So the purpose of business, clarity about the purpose of business, of your business, is an absolute must to be able to create a business plan that works. There's no doubt about that. You can't create an effective business plan, a business plan that makes a difference to your business, unless you have clarity, real clarity about the purpose of your business. And as I say, what's the purpose of the question? What is the purpose of your business, and why would anybody else care about that question? So the other thing that may need further explanation is number 6, that the plan must be short, ideally no more than 1 page. It's quite different from the standard business plan that we think of when we talk about business plan, right? In the external business plan, they're weighty documents. And that's what the difference between an internal and an external business plan is. I'm not suggesting that if you want to get to the bank to give, if you want to get the bank to give you a $500,000 overdraft, and you walk in the meeting with a manager with a 1-page document, you're not going to have a very long meeting. But if you want to create a plan that lives on everyone's desk and it is used by everyone to guide their work and their decisions and their actions, every page past the first one means the plan becomes less effective. Trust me on that. And that's the perfect segue to mention about a couple of the 1-page business plan templates that you can download from the resources page of for this Masterminds topic. The resources page is just at the top of your chat window, tiny.cc /plan L page. There's 3 1-page business plan templates. Obviously, I can't go into much detail of those on these webinars, but I'll explain the basic concepts of the first 2, and the third one comes with its own explanation. So this is the first one. This is my own. I call it the 1-page growth plan, and simply the New Perspectives 1-page plan. So as I mentioned before, I truly believe that a business plan has to rest on absolute clarity about the purpose of the business, and it's structured that way, as you can see if you're working your way through the plan from left to right. And it all fits on 1 page, although on A4 it's pretty small, but on A3 it's really good. It's designed really to fit really comfortably on A3. And one client of mine who's an architect, he's got a big AO printer, so he made one on AO and it's hanging on the wall. It's enormous. We don't all have AO printers. But anyway, so, as I said, the business plan has to rest on absolute clarity about the purpose of the business, and it's structured that way. The base, or the left, are your personal values, which culminate in your corporate values and your beliefs. And that leads to your purpose, and then the guiding principles and your brand promise. And then we define the top, middle top. There's the 10-year, 3-year, and 1-year goals, the BHAG, the target, and the goal. BHAG stands for Big, Hairy, Audacious Goal. That's not my my original. Jim Collins coined that phrase. Big, Hairy, Audacious Goal. And the target is the 3 to 5 year goal, and then the 1-year goal. So we define the 10, 3, and 1-year goals, and then we focus on the key strengths of the business, the key strengths and the key weaknesses, the opportunities and the threats, which are in the top there. And we finally zero in on the monthly milestones for the year ahead. And then there's some other boxes we won't go into the detail of. But all of that gives you a plan for the year, and it can live on everybody's desk, and it can be constantly adjusted and scribbled on. It's really effective, and it's comprehensive. It started, I can't claim complete authority or copyright on it. It's an adjustment from a guy called Vern Harnish, who it's got something that looks a little bit similar, but I've amended it somewhat. And then this one is a famous one in business development, in business consulting circles. The business model canvas. It's also a one-page thing, and again, also on ideally on larger than A4, a bit hard on A3. This one is actually designed to print out on A1, and then you use the standard sort of yellow stickies to you hang it on the wall, and then you put yellow stickies in there everywhere and scribble on those, and then blah blah blah. You can get an app for it as well to run on an iPad. Anyway, the business model canvas was created in a book called Business Model Generation by a guy called Alex Osterwalder and Yves Pigneur. And so, as I said, it's quite famous in this, and it's really powerful. There's a link to a video on the resources page that explains the business model canvas in a couple of minutes. It's worth a look. But for now, suffice to say that the canvas takes quite a different approach that you should check out. And I suppose the difference between the one I'm talking, my plan, and this is that the business model canvas really investigates more the workings of the business. How do we actually make everything work within the business? And mine is really about strategic vision. And so they can actually coexist side by side if you like, but they're just different approaches. And then the third one, there's an example of that also that you can download from the resources pages by a guy called Mike Mihalowicz. He wrote a book called The Toilet Paper Entrepreneur, and in spite of the title, it's actually a really good book. And his planning approach is different again, and it's great. He says lots of cool things in his book. I quite like it, and he's quite confrontational, but and weird, but he makes a lot of sense. But he takes a really different approach to business planning again, and there's a sample that you can download from my website or from his website, of course. The Obsidian Launches Prosperity Plan. It's worth a good look. Strictly speaking, it's not a one-page plan that it's simple. It's actually 2 pages, but it's still exceedingly succinct and effective. And so that's the 3 different tools you can obtain from the resources page. And I'll talk about what we'd like to do, we'd like you to do with those a bit later. And now I've just got to turn my lights on because I'll soon not be able to see anymore. Just 1 second. Talk amongst yourselves. Good moment to take a break for a moment. So, any questions at this point before we get into the business bedtime story? Any questions? All right. Let's move on. I'm going to sip of water. Time for the business bedtime story. Imagine you're all going to bed and I'm going to tuck you in. Snuggle in, lay back and listen to my story. This is a story about Laura. Once upon a time, a long, long time ago in a country not unlike Australia, Laura had a fashion label, and Laura had a little shop in Sydney and a fashion label and a small dedicated band of followers for her unique brand. Her unique brand of office fashion for successful corporate women. Laura's business was 4 years old, and although it was gratifying to see the same customers come back season after season for her latest lines, and to know how happy her customers usually were when they left her shop, Laura felt strongly that it was a great opportunity for her to grow the business and bring her unique designs to a larger audience, but she just didn't know where to start. Should I get involved in social media? Or maybe I need to take the plunge and open a shop in the CBD? Or should I look for a partner in Melbourne or knock on the door of Myer? And how will I finance an expansion? And can I continue to manufacture in Australia? And what if I'm not good enough to manage more staff in various localities? And is the market in Perth the same as the market in Sydney? What if Q Design simply decides to knock off my designs? And if I grow, will I lose the loyalty of my customers? Etc., etc., etc. And Laura was stuck in the classic decision paralysis loop. So I was working with Laura, and as we were working through these these decision dilemmas, Laura came to realize that the only way to cut through the dilemmas was to face her lack of confidence in business planning head on and write a thorough business plan, but in a form that worked for her. And so she did. She started by creating a big mind map in which she wrote down all the dilemmas and questions, and then she systematically ordered them and prioritized them and answered them. And the mind map evolved to a series of small one-page documents for different aspects of the business and a timeline with projections for different stages of the business development. And from there, Laura simply started to work progressively through the plan, and every time another question or dilemma came up, and every time she learned new things of the business environment changed or new opportunities opened up, she went to the plan and found a place to house the question or change a strategy or add an outcome. This simple and constant process of planning allowed her to be able to focus on the immediate next steps ahead without being afraid that she'd forget something crucial. And that's the thing, right? Without being afraid that she'd forget something crucial, a place for everything. So making this step to getting involved in an appropriate level of consistent planning is the one thing that started to shift Laura's business into a new realm. It really did. A few years ago now, but it really changed. 1.5 years later, Laura had opened the second shop in Sydney. The planning process helped her understand that the opportunities for her in the short and medium term were not in the central business district, the CBD, nor in large-scale production offshore, but in a series of small, unique shops in specific inner city suburbs like Balmain and Mossman. You need to know Sydney, where Balmain and Mossman are, but they're specific kinds of inner city suburbs, followed by similar expansion in Melbourne and other major cities in Australia. And Laura was looking forward to the next 5 years of consistent, controlled growth and building a loyal national following of her brand, her label, and Laura lived happily ever after. Who said business wasn't romantic? Anyway, the message is clear. I've seen the same thing over and over with my clients. For me personally, I think the biggest lessons from Laura's story was that planning never stops. And you might have heard that her approach to planning was quite different to the ones I outlined. And I specifically, I could have chosen lots of different stories, but I specifically chose that one because it's important that you realize that there is not one approach that matters, that works. It's what works for you. What works for you may not work for everybody else. Probably won't work for everybody else. Planning is an internal approach, and so it's about what is a set of documents, how do you design a document that is going to be useful for you and the people and the stakeholders in your business. And thanks for that comment. Kathy said that she has her answer to her question about how do you engage stakeholders' feedback. Great. Glad you got that, Kathy. That's really cool. Oh, lovely. Okay. So let's hear from you. What's come up for you from everything that you've heard me talk about? What did you think when listening to Laura's bedtime story? What about the 6 principles of effective planning or the idea of internal and external plans? What are the top 3 insights or learnings you've got from this workshop so far? Or maybe you have more questions and insights. Or maybe you disagree with me. All good. Please go ahead, write them down on your worksheet now. And I think that's what I've got. Page 5 is space for you to write down what came up for you. What are your top insights or questions? And I'm going to give you another minute to write them. And also feel free to type them into your chat window, if you like. So feel free to keep writing, and feel free to come and share or ask questions. But while you're still writing, I'll just give you my big bullet points again. So business planning is indeed critically important to guide the development of your business. Planning is not about the document, it's about the work doing the planning. Planning is a verb, in other words. There's a big difference between an internal and an external business plan. Planning never stops. Make a commitment to ongoing business planning in your business. Ongoing planning. Forget everything you've always thought or have been told about how a business plan should look. Think about a form that works for you and your business. So I've seen effective business plans in all kinds of forms, in mind map forms, in lots of colored sticky notes on a whiteboard with scribbles on computer, in a collection of one-page documents loosely bound in a folder, in the forms we talked about earlier, in formal language, in pictures, or a combination of all of the above. As a matter of fact, I think I mentioned it in the first book. An old mate of mine, a painter, a painting company, Men in White in Sydney, Rowan Calvert. He's got a planning wall in his office. He's a painter, so he has this particular paint which is like whiteboard paint, so you can actually turn a whole wall into a whiteboard. And so he has this big wall in his office, which is his planning wall, and he's just constantly adjusting his plan on that. It's a really cool way of doing it, actually. And you could, if you know, it might be a great idea for you, Kathy. There's painters that can do this whiteboard paint, and they can turn a whole wall into a whiteboard. It's phenomenal. Anyway, where was I? So, okay, number 6, don't do it on your own. Involve others. 7, internal business plans can fit on one page, and there is no such thing as a perfect plan. The best plan is the one that is live and it's used by everyone. It's got coffee stands over it and scribbles in the margins. And Kathy, understanding one plan may not be enough. Internal, external, leaving the business plan and working with it constantly, starting again now, and don't let the vision go. Great, that's wonderful. Thanks for sharing that. Kathy, it's really cool. Yeah, one plan may not be enough. Exactly. That's great. Really cool. So, we've got another question from Daryl, Brisbane. So I really like what he heard today. And he says, where do I start? So Daryl, well, to be honest, I don't have the best way to start answer either, right? I mean, personally, I like my own template, the one-page plan that I showed you is on the screen before, and you can download it. But before I start filling that in, I would probably get a mind map, just like Laura did, and do some brainstorming in it first. But that's just me. I mean, I like mind maps, especially the computer mind map programs that you can get online, such as xmind.net. Anybody use online digital mind mapping? It's a really powerful tool. xmind.net, I can recommend it. You can get a free download for it. Carly in Sydney. Carly says she's still confused about the value of the old external business plan. Why are we always told to create business plans like that? I want to talk about that earlier. So, but I didn't, but no, I will. So to be honest, look, I'm actually not quite sure. Well, I think it's because that in that external business planning model, the classic external business planning model that gets rehashed by accountants and consultants and government organizations and banks and that sort of stuff, and that you can get download online everywhere. It's because how the business world has always done them. MBAs, accountants, bank managers, funds managers, that's how they make meaning of what a business is about. And, it's also how the big business world operates, and that trickles down. And of course, if you're an investor and you're about to invest $1 million into a venture, you want to do your, what they call due diligence, and you need to You need more and different types of information to feel confident that you're making a good investment than if you're an employee in a company. But, the old-fashioned external business plans are really about getting a deep insight into a business at a certain moment of time. It's about getting a really comprehensive snapshot of what the state of a business is right now. It's not nearly as much about providing a simple tool to use to manage the day-to-day strategic growth and development of the company. It really should have a completely different name, right? I mean, an external business plan is a snapshot, and an internal plan, the one I'm talking about, is a growth tool or a development tool or whatever you want to call it. Any more questions? Feel free. We might move on, but feel free to type them in or email me directly at roland@newperspectives.com.au. Or we might have some more time later, so feel free to type them in as well. In a moment, we're going to get to our actions. What are my suggested actions and next steps? But before we go to we've been there. That's where I'm meant to be. All those hundreds of business development priorities. It's just too much to focus on. So I mentioned before that I'm going to give you some information about taking simple next steps out of that sense of overwhelm and not knowing how and where to start next. So I ask you to focus and write down your most pressing issue, your biggest challenge in your business. Before, have another look at it. I hope it's a greater problem than this woman's trial. Is that still your biggest problem, your biggest, most pressing issue? Because this is my offer. My offer is that I'm going to give you what I call the wayside trial session. And what you're going to get is you're going to get access to my business health check, and you're going to get a simple and easy to understand written report of the state of the health of your business right now across 10 different key aspects of the business. You can get a hard copy of one of my books, either any one of the three. You get to sit down with me for 75 minutes via Skype or video link, one-on-one, and gain great clarity and insight about where you are now, where you want to get to in your business, and you'll walk away with a powerful, renewed focus and one or more simple action steps that will start to move you forward past your big pressing issue. All of that. And all you have to do is make a $100 donation to what is my favourite charity here in Sydney, the Wayside Chapel. It's a homeless church just up the road from where I live. All the details about that offer are at that link there, and they're also in your worksheet. Or it's very simple to find. All you go to my website, and then go click on my programs, and then you'll see free stuff and then trial. So programs, free stuff, trial. There's a page with all the links, and all you got to do is make a donation of $100, and Bob's your uncle who's your auntie, and you'll get the link to the health check, and you can book in a session with me, and I'll send you the book, and you'll get an awful lot out of it. It's really the most fun and most effective charity donation you've ever made in your life, I can guarantee you. So that was my offer. That's my one big offer, my sales pitch. Make a $100 donation in the Wayside Chapel. Or if you really have a favourite charity of your own that you'd rather make the $100 donation to, that's perfectly fine. All you've got to do is let me know what you've donated, who you've donated it to, as long as it's not your spouse or yourself. Right. Now I've just gone through those big insights, so we'll pass on through that. So let's get into action. Nothing's going to change if we don't take action, right? Don't forget there's the special resources page, which is at the top of your window, tiny.cc Plan L page. So this is what I want you to do. And this is really important. This is the critical bit. If you don't set some time aside to do something with what you've just learned and the information I've given you today, in the next few days, then coming on this webinar has been a waste of your time. Plain and simple. The only thing that ultimately makes any difference is what actions we take. So, here are the actions. Go to the resources page. Take the time to do so. tiny.cc/planl page. Download the templates. They're all just PDFs. All you're going to do is download them and have a look at them. Then, watch the video. There's a video. It's a great video on there. Read the article that's on there. Rewatch the webinar from tomorrow. This webinar will be available there again to rewatch, and you can go over bits. And then decide to start and commit to it. But get started in whatever form you think it's going to work. Use one of the templates or start with a mind map or with lots of yellow stickies on a whiteboard. It doesn't matter. Just start. And finally, this is a tool I use a lot. Super simple. So, and it's on your worksheet as well on the next page, on page 6, I think. Yeah. We're going to call this scale from 0 to 10, your master of planning scale. 10 on the scale is that you are totally plan-driven. You are constantly always planning. You hold monthly planning meetings with your staff and everyone has a plan sitting on their desk. All decisions and actions are based on your plan, and 0 is the absolute opposite. What number would you give yourself on the scale? Then next, ask yourself the question, what do I need to do this coming week to move one small increment up your own master of planning scale? What is one specific, small, tiny action that I can take to move one small increment up the planning scale? For example, from 6 to 6.1. So we're not even talking the whole numbers. 6.01 if you want. And then this is the secret of all secrets. Get your diary out and book that specific action or actions in your diary next week. Actually book space in your diary for it. Half an hour, 15 minutes, an hour, whatever it takes to do that specific action that's going to take you from 6 to 6.1. And then next week, ask yourself the same question. There is no other secret. That's all it takes. Well, besides taking up the offer, it's truly the best offer, the most fun offer you're going to get in 2015 to take a significant forward step to building a fun business that sustains you for years to come. Guaranteed. You're going to get a mountain of value, valuable insights, learning and clarity out of the health check and the report and the session and my book. And the website is going to love you too. Any last questions before we finalize, before we finish up? And if you take nothing else away from this webinar, that remember that thing that planning is a verb. You must always be planning. In whatever form works best for you. Do it on beer coasters, on the wall, yellow stickies on a whiteboard, whatever it is, but just do it. And that is the resources page. Any last questions? Otherwise, I'm going to turn off the recording now. Thank you very much. I'll be online for anybody who wants to, and I can take people off mute if you'd like to be taken off mute to have a chat. But I'll turn the recording off now.